We are still Mark Rogers TV, although in recent weeks we could be confused with Clemson Tigers TV. There's much to talk about concerning Clemson's quest to win the ACC and maybe even more. We're in the midst of a series covering the best offenses in college football. Clemson is certainly in the mix. Check out that post. We've got 2 entries to go. Also, we received a request last week to run down the Clemson schedule game by game and give a preview and prediction of each game, and we filled that request. Check out that post as well. In checking out the blogs coming from the ACC Media Days this week, Clemson is the chic pick not only to win the ACC, but be a dark horse contender for the National Championship game. To the extent where they're being labeled as a dark horse so much, I don't necessarily think this is a dark horse pick. Of course, Alabama is the prohibitive favorite. Then you've got Ohio State and Oregon and Stanford and a few others. But members of the media covering the ACC believe so much in this football team that they voted Clemson over Florida State in the Coastal Division, 95 votes to 15. Taj Boyd, Player of the Year on 105 ballots out of 120. This is the chic pick to make it all the way to the BCS National Championship game. And there is no doubt, as we mentioned, about the offense. The offense is spectacular. Taj Boyd might be the best player. Jadeveon Clowney, my apologies, he doesn't fear you. Best player in college football, certainly one of the top 5 or 10 quarterbacks. We need to talk about defense, because when I think Clemson football, I think offensive talent and speed, and then I remember, oh yeah, they lose a couple football games every year because their defense is horrible and the offense can't possibly make up for that against really quality opponents. I go back to that horrific performance, one of the worst in bowl history against West Virginia following the ACC Championship game and the 2011 team that got torched by Geno Smith to the tune of 49 points in the first half, 70-33, and it could have been worse. West Virginia was all over the place, throwing the football all over the field. When you look at Clemson's recruiting, they recruit exceptional athletes on defense with great speed. But this defense has been marred by blown assignments, blown coverages, guys that don't necessarily want to tackle. They don't gang tackle. They're not fierce. They don't have that strong desire to get the job done. Things changed a bit last year under new defensive coordinator Brent Venables in from Oklahoma. They somehow pried him away from Bob Stoops because he was at Oklahoma from 1999 to 2011, and Venables was the architect of that famed Oklahoma National Championship defense in 2000 with Rocky Kalmus and Teddy Lehman and Torrance Marshall and Derek Strait and a young Roy Williams on that defense. They were devastating and holding Florida State to 0 points on offense in that national championship game and going 13-0. So let's look at the Clemson defense and see who the playmakers could be. These are the best players on the defense, but also some names you may not have seen last season that need to break out. We start with defensive end Vic Beasley. Yes, he stood out last season, only 18 tackles, but talk about a playmaker. He made the most of the 18 stops. 8 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss for Vic Beasley, and he led the team in sacks and also was 4th in the ACC in sacks as well. You've got defensive tackle Grady Jarrett as well. This guy undersized at 6'1", 290, but plays much bigger than that. He's a force, and he is very active up front. He was the co-defensive MVP of this team, and again, at 6'1", 290, his biological father is Jesse Tuggle. And for you younger folks out there, younger fans out there and viewers, Jesse Tuggle was a tackling machine with the Atlanta Falcons. Look him up on YouTube. Hopefully there's some video of him wrapping up ball carriers. He was one of the best at doing what he did best, and that's make hundreds of tackles, one of the top 5 tacklers in the NFL, season in, season out for the Atlanta Falcons. At middle linebacker, you've got Stephon Anthony. This guy was rated the #1 player at his position, according to ESPNU coming out of high school. Now, he had a fine season overall with 77 stops and 4.5 tackles for loss, but much bigger things are expected of him. He lost his middle linebacking job and was moved to the outside, lost it to Spencer Shuey last season after a few games. Shuey took over, did a nice job, and he's the leading returning tackler with 93. But Brent Venables, defensive coordinator, believes so much in Anthony's talent that he's moving him back to middle linebacker and saying, you are the man, you're going to play here. Looking at Kellen Jones, he's a guy that did not play at all last season. He's a transfer, had to sit out, but the coaches had rave reviews, Venables and Dabo Swinney, about Kellen Jones and how good he was in the spring. And he can play. He's so versatile. He can play all three linebacker positions. And we know injuries are coming. So Kellen Jones will be seen on that Clemson defense, but he could be seen in all three linebacking spots. At safety, you've got Travis Blanks, who's one of the top players coming out of high school 2 seasons ago and really stepped up and did very well as the second-rated safety coming out of high school, stepped right into the starting lineup, got a lot of playing in the Sam Nickel position with 51 total tackles. He takes over as the starter at safety, does Blanks. He was a freshman All-America, second team in 2012 for Clemson. This is a defense that has to get better to contend for a national championship, and I believe, even though they are the prohibitive favorite to win the ACC, that Florida State still will have something to say about that. Would love to hear what you have to say about the Clemson defense, because the Tigers did improve last season, but they still gave up 48 to NC State and 49 to Florida State and 31 to Georgia Tech and Boston College. And they really, if you believe in the carryover from the bowl game into the next season, the spring, and into the next fall practice, this could bode well for this football team, because despite giving up 25 to LSU, the defense played very well in the second half as the Tigers of Clemson came back to beat the Tigers of LSU 25-24. 8 3-and-outs for the Clemson defense in that Chick-fil-A Bowl victory on New Year's Eve. Would love to hear what you have to say on Clemson football right here on Mark Rogers TV.